So the leaders of the West will have their eyes on the Central Asian nation of Uzbekistan. The country is hosting the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit this year, where the grouping is set to expand further. Leader of Russia and China, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, they're making rare trips abroad for this summit amid the war in Ukraine. They will be joined by leaders of India, Pakistan, Turkey, Iran and other nations. Both China and Russia have long sought to position the SCO as an alternative to Western multilateral groups. They could possibly be closer to this aim now more than ever before. The summit takes place against the backdrop of rapidly changing geopolitics. Russia has time and again called geopolitics of the America-led Western alliances as predatory. It cites Finland's and Sweden's NATO application as the latest example here. To counter it, Russia is planning to fall back on its SCO partners, the top two being India and China. China's slant towards Russia over Ukraine war is clear. Beijing is not part of international sanctions against Moscow. China's relations with the West have also plunged to an all-time low, especially with the United States over tensions in the Taiwan Strait. China is also standing against the US as a hegemon in the Asia-Pacific. So both Russia and China are showing signs of resisting not just American power but also the existing global order. India's partnership is also extremely crucial for Russia. The world's largest democracy and a key Quad member has maintained close ties with the United States and the West, and at the same time has further strengthened ties with Russia amid the war in Ukraine. New Delhi has refused to take sides in this ongoing war. Much to the dismay of the West, India abstained from UN votes on Russian invasion. The country has instead called for diplomatic solution to this crisis. India's imports of Russian oil have soared since the Ukraine invasion. Russian President Vladimir Putin will be holding bilaterals with India's Narendra Modi. The two are expected to discuss issues of strategic ability, situation in the Asia-Pacific and bilateral cooperation within the United Nations and G20. But India may have its reservations. It may have to ponder on whether or not to back Russia's alternative to West. New Delhi is clearly not anti-West. It even has its long-standing issues with Pakistan. With China, tensions have mounted over border disputes along the line of actual control. Adding to the West list of concerns is the SCO expansion here and the inclusion of its latest member, Iran. Tehran will be gaining a full membership of the SCO. Iran had been waiting for this diplomatic success for a while now. Apart from better trade, economic and foreign ties, what Tehran could be seeking here is support from an anti-West grouping, as chances of the 2015 nuclear deal revival look bleak. So can the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, that was formed with the focus on regional security and development, now with changing geopolitical order, turn into an alternative to a US-led Western alliance? And for more on this, our principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibal spoke to Rosie Burchard. She provides us with a European perspective of the SCO meet. Let's take a look.
How do you see the entire summit as essentially at a time when we know that it's West versus Russia and China on the other side?
Well, I think, as you know, I'm often reporting from Europe, and I've been certainly filled in on the perspective there, and that is a perspective of trying to sanction Russia, of trying to cripple the Kremlin's ability to keep financing the conflict in Ukraine. What we're seeing here, really, I think, is Russian President Vladimir Putin trying to show or insisting that in fact those attempts by Europe, by other Western allies to try and isolate Russia haven't worked. Now that is something that those Western countries would deny. They would say their sanctions are hitting the Russian economy hard and that they are having the desired effect, particularly as Europe tries to wean itself off Russian gas. But of course Russia may have new and bigger customers that it's meeting with here. Of course, Russia talking to China, for example. We've seen that big Russia-China gas deal. The European Union has cut its dependence on Russia for energy supplies, but Moscow has to find now new customers for those fossil fuels. And of course, its economy is very much propped up by and really funded by those fossil fuel exports. So really, as you said, we're seeing this kind of Russia trying to show that it still has friends despite these attempts at isolation. And I think there were Western leaders that were perhaps surprised and disappointed by certain countries not getting on board with their sanctions. Right, we've seen plenty of outreach efforts by European countries to try and convince other nations, and some of those that will be here present, to try and get on board with this mechanism of sanctioning Russia, of trying to punish it for that brutal invasion of Ukraine.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.